Students, today we're going to read a book called Chrysanthemum. It was written by Kevin Henkes. He's our author. Looking at the front cover, I can guess that Chrysanthemum is the name of this mouse. Chrysanthemum is also a type of flower. Let's read and find out more about this character. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Why did she love her name so much? She loved the way it sounded when her mom or her dad called her name. She loved the way that it sounded when she said it herself. She loved the way that it looked when it was written down. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. "Hooray!" said Chrysanthemum. "School!" How does Chrysanthemum feel about school? She's pretty excited. She's pretty happy. But when Mrs. Chudd, her teacher, took roll, that's attendance, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Let's look at some of the names that our author has written down for the other mice in her class. There's Dawn and Eve, Lois and Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, and Chrysanthemum. What do you notice about all of those names? They're all pretty short. Most of them are only one syllable. They're all short enough to fit inside of the box with their picture. What do you notice about Chrysanthemum's name? It doesn't fit in the box. It's a long name. And everyone giggled. "It's so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on your name tag," said Victoria, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "You're named after a flower." Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What do you think dreadful means? Terrible, awful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. "That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet," Victoria explained. "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." "If I had a name like yours, I'd change it," Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. "I wish I could," thought Chrysanthemum miserably. What do you think miserably means? Sadly, so sadly. "Welcome home," said her mother. "Welcome home," said her father. "School is no place for me," said Chrysanthemum. "My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower." What effect did the teasing at school have on Chrysanthemum? What happened to how she felt because of the teasing? Yeah, it made her very sad. It made her miserable. "Oh, pish," said her mother. "Your name is beautiful, and precious, and priceless, and fascinating, and winsome," said her father. "It's everything you are," said her mother. "Absolutely perfect," said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That's a game. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. What do you think pleasant means? Is she enjoying her dream? Pleasant means enjoyable. She likes it. She wanted a short name in her dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. "Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum," she wrote. "She even looks like a flower," said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. "Let's pick her," said Rita, pointing. "Let's smell her," said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What does dreadful mean again? Oh, terrible. Yes, she thought her name was terrible, awful. So the author now has told us a couple times that when she starts feeling bad, she wilted. Have you ever seen a flower that's not gotten enough water and it's all droopy? It doesn't look like it's feeling good. It wilted. That's how Chrysanthemum feels inside. She's not getting what she needs. Flowers need water, but Chrysanthemum, she needs to be able to feel good about her name, and she's not feeling good about it, so she wilted. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, "A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things." "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." "I just cannot believe your name," Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. "Neither can I," thought Chrysanthemum miserably. What did miserably mean again? So sadly. "Welcome home," said her mother. "Welcome home," said her father. "School is no place for me," said Chrysanthemum. "They said I even look like a flower." They pretended to pick me and smell me." "Oh, pish," said her mother. "They're just jealous." "And envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced," said her father. "Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours?" said her mother. "After all, it's absolutely perfect," said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. A prized possession is something that you really, really love. So a possession is something that you own. So she put all these pockets in her outfit. She made sure that she had an outfit that had lots of pockets. And she put a little treasure in each and every pocket to make herself feel a little bit better. All her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the very longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. "Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum," the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. So they just loved Mrs. Twinkle. They wanted Mrs. Twinkle to love them too. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. It's when you sing at all these different notes. And then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. "Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy," Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Jo. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Jo. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would?" said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium, Delphinium Twinkle, and if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed. She beamed. She bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Why do you think the author used the word "she bloomed"? Now, before he kept saying she wilted, and we know flowers wilt when they don't get what they need. And flowers bloom when they do get what they need. Can a person bloom? Not really, because we aren't flowers. But can we be everything we were meant to be? Can we get all the things that we need to make ourselves feel right and then do our very best? She bloomed. Look at her. She's standing straight and tall. She's happy and proud of herself again. If she were a flower, she would have bloomed. She's not miserable anymore. She does not think her name is dreadful anymore. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. That means they wished they had a nice long name too, preferably named after a flower. "Call me Marigold," said Joe. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. So overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty fairy queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. Let's look back at this picture. Let's take a careful look at this illustration. What do you think the illustrator wants us to learn from this picture? How is Chrysanthemum feeling? She's feeling pretty good about herself. She's feeling pretty good about her name. Should she have let those other girls make her feel so bad? No. Sometimes kids at school might say something that makes us feel bad, and we have to remember, sometimes we can't let it all bother us. I wish that those other girls had been nicer. But if Joe and Rita and Victoria couldn't manage to be nice, maybe Chrysanthemum could manage to say, "That doesn't matter. I know that I'm important. I know that my name is good. My parents love my name, and I love my name. So sometimes you can't let everybody else's thoughts bother you so much." Thank you for reading this book with me. You know, they told us that Chrysanthemum has 13 letters in her name. How many letters are in your name?